moment. It's crashing about once every 25 minutes. So it may crash on us in the recording.
Right. So that stream is live now. So let me see if I can play it. See what the audio sounds like. It should. Testing. Oh, perfect.
There's audio there.
There's a lag though. So see what it's up to. Yep. That's a long lag. It's about 20 seconds. Yeah, but it works.
Yeah, cool.
It's just talking about the lag now. Right. That's good. So let me send this link out. Recorders going, live streams going. No Jason tonight.
No. And next week either.
No. I think we might see if we can get a guest next week.
Yeah, I'll see. I was thinking maybe we can get somebody on.
Maybe get Paul on. We've not done an IoT thing for a while.
Don't think so, actually. Actually, that's a point. We might have to record on another day next week, because Paul's doing a IoT talk on Tuesday, which I've got to go to. But it should finish at 8, but whether I'll be home in time to actually record at 9 is another matter.
Right.
But I'm sure we can work something out.
Okay, link out.
Good.
Gary, good evening.
Very good evening.
And we seem to have fixed the audio from last week. That seems to be all coming through nice and clearly.
Yeah, so people can join us on the live stream.
Yeah.
It's always a good thing to do, actually. We usually record on a Tuesday at around about 9 o'clock GMT, or summertime, whichever we happen to be on at the time.
Yeah.
And just join us in the chat room on the live page on Digital Lifestyle, and join in and ask questions.
Yeah, and I've moved I did have a big monitor on my desk. Well, a big monitor. It was my old TV from the living room, a 40-inch TV, which in theory seemed quite good. I used to run Skype on it, but since switching to this Dell laptop to do the Skype recording and the editing and things, I've stopped using the TV, so it's just in the way. So I've took it out, and it feels like I've got a whole new room.
Loads of space.
I've got loads of space now, and yeah, what a difference it makes. So I feel very relaxed now. I've got this space around me. It's amazing the difference it makes. So I've got my record player there, the Dell here. I've got another machine there, an Acer machine doing the streaming, and I've got my Surface here as well with the chat room on there. So yes, I feel like I've got everything around me now, with more space and more space synthesizers as well, which is the most important thing.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
So we both agree on that.
Yeah. So I'll probably
it does look from the camera like you've got tons of space around you as well.
Yeah, it's all this space before. I had a big desk here and everything else, and over there I've got synths and behind me. And
yeah. So anybody who's listening on the podcast and ever wants to see what Ian looks like, he always puts this show out on YouTube as well, so you can always have a glance and see what he looks like. Can't see what I'm looking like though.
Yeah, we should one day I'll fix that as well. And do that as well.
You wouldn't want to see how I'm looking like tonight.
So the No Jason tonight is just us tonight.
Yes, unfortunately, Jason's not able to get here this week, or probably next week as well. I think he's having to work late next week, so shame when work gets in the way.
Well, this week he's installing Linux to get all his SQL servers running on Linux.
True, that's true.
Yeah, and next week he finishes work on time, but he won't be using Here Drive to get here. Oh,
yes, true, yes. Mind you, I don't think Jason uses Here Drive anyway, so he'll probably be right. He's a Copilot man, isn't he?
So plenty to talk about. Let's start with that, though.
Yeah, that's the big news of the day. So a big announcement today from the Here team. So Here was part of Nokia many years ago. When Nokia mobile devices was sold to Microsoft, Here was spun off as a separate company, and recently it was sold to a conglomeration of automobile motor builders, including BMW and a few others. And today they posted a post and also updated all the apps to say that they will not be supporting the Here suite on Windows 10 Mobile, or in fact Windows 10 at all.
Yeah, and Windows Phone 8.1 as well, isn't it?
Well, they
continue with those, won't they?
Well, what basically will happen is the Windows 8.1 stuff will stay, but it won't be updated.
Yeah,
and they won't be updated. So there's something happening in June which is going to cause the Windows 10 apps to stop working completely. There's been a lot of speculation on what that might be. It's certainly something to do with something Microsoft are doing, possibly to do fresh releases, etc. But basically what they're saying is they used a workaround to get the Windows 10 apps up and running, because they're actually not Windows 10 apps. They're apps. You're still using the old version of the phone app, so they're not universal Windows platform apps. And that workaround is going away in June, so the app will stop working, and therefore the only way they could get it to work would be to create a Windows 10 universal Windows platform app, and they're not prepared to do that, not prepared to put the effort in to do that. And to be honest, I think with their new ownership, I suspect they won't be putting in much effort into apps generally. I can see them just using Here as a resource for all cars, and also as a back-end service which people can buy, as Microsoft have done for Windows Mobile. So I think one of the things, this is obviously causing hands up in the air, it's the demise of Windows Phone again, but this is actually something which could have been expected to some extent from a Microsoft point of view as well, because they've been using Here Maps as a back end for the Maps app.
Yeah.
And it seems almost strange to have two apps out there. Having said that, the Maps app, whilst it is really good for America and quite good for the UK, it's pretty awful for the rest of Europe at the moment.
Right.
And it's certainly awful if you want to use multiple languages. Now, what a lot of people use is they have their device in one language and they're mapping in another language. Quite a lot of people will use the device in English, but actually have their own local language for the mapping.
Yeah.
Which Here Maps supports, Here Drive supports, but obviously at the moment the Maps app doesn't support. The Windows Maps apps doesn't support. So that's something which perhaps may come in a Maps update. I mean, I've been hearing rumours of major Maps updates coming shortly, possibly ready in time for the release of Windows 10 Mobile. But as with a lot of Microsoft things, we often hear coming soon.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Always coming soon. But interesting that first of all, my initial reaction was, well, okay, I haven't used Here Maps since I got Windows 10 Mobile anyway, because I use a Microsoft one. Although I've heard people talk about this GPS lag, but I seem to find that has been fixed for about a month or so. So maybe it was the insider builds when that was fixed, but I do remember seeing that at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I've had GPS lag on platforms other than the Maps. In fact, I actually had GPS lag on Here Drive when I tried it at one point. So I know people say it doesn't happen, but I think it may not be related to the app itself, or maybe some underlying system thing. And as you say, it does seem to have been fixed recently.
Yeah. So that was my initial reaction. Well, okay, it's not. I've not been using it for a while anyway, and so I'm not too bothered. Although, I mean, the Here apps were good on Windows Phone 8.1. I was always, quite happy with them on there. Interesting though that you say that one of the reasons why they pull this is really they don't as a division or whatever they are of the automotive companies, that the actual Here Maps themselves, the apps, don't make them any money at all, do they? They're a lost. A lost leader, effectively, aren't they?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, they any effort they put into them, they're not recouping.
Yeah. Whereas what they really want, what car manufacturers want, is for you to buy a new car with new features in it, isn't it? So you can see why they would drive that way. They don't want you using a phone in your car for your navigation, because there's no differentiation between different car models then. They want you to use the in-car navigation system.
Yeah, and whilst this has come out for Windows 10 now, and I suspect it is related to this fact that things are about to probably be released to the public on Windows 10, so perhaps they're going to just go say, at the point Windows 10's released, we're going to say here that Here Maps is no longer supported, but you have got Windows 10 Maps. It's a replacement.
Yeah.
Because Apple have done that in the past. They've replaced the maps with another mapping system.
Yeah,
They
that's
didn't get much public outcry about it, did they?
right. No, it was perfectly fine. Well,
Perfectly fine.
yeah, and everybody still uses Google Maps on it anyway. Although the Apple Maps is a lot better now, but I think perhaps that's one of the issues as well. That Google Maps, if Google Maps was available, then this would be a non-issue as totally as well.
Yeah, and there are some third-party tools that allow you to use Google Maps.
Yeah, which I use. Yeah.
Yes. So there are ways around that. I think the difficulty here is the fact that Here Maps is still available on iOS and on Android now. And it actually is quite a good option on iOS. But I would question how much support is going to go into those apps as well going forward.
Yeah. I mean, I did see someone on Twitter say, here's the release notes and they've got frequent updates. But again, yeah, you're right. It's more because it got higher numbers. It's interesting, really, because it gets on iOS. Yes, there's more people got iOS, there's more people got Android, but Google Maps is on there on Android, which is probably a better solution anyway. And a lot of people with iPhones use the default mapping app. They use the Apple Maps, or they use Google Maps. So whereas on Windows Phone 8.1, Here was the #1 map choice. On an iPhone, it's probably the third choice. On Android, it might be the second or third choice, maybe. Yeah. So they can. Yeah.
I was going to say here was effectively the default map choice for Windows 8.1.
Yeah, so it's gone from being the default on the third platform to being the third offering on the first two platforms.
Yes.
How their install numbers will stack up, I'm not quite sure. I'm sure being third choice on an Android phone is probably more numbers than first choice on Windows 10 mobile.
Yeah.
But
there you go. I mean, I think we're both less concerned about the Here Maps and Here Drive stuff going away, because there are lots of alternatives, and there's a really good article on Windows Central today with explaining some of the alternatives. I know I've mentioned Sajic quite a few times, and I love that. I think that's got a lot more going for it than Here Maps actually Here Drive even had going for it, and it uses TomTom maps, so something which in some cases in the UK particularly are more accurate. But what I am really disappointed about going away, because at the moment there's no replacement for it, is the Transit app.
Yes, I know what you mean, because that was quite handy. I used that, for example, when I went to the Windows 10 launch. I was in London. It's very handy for getting the times on that.
Well, I think the thing about the Here Transit app is, yes, some of that is in the new map app. You can do directions using Transit, but the Here Transit app has this lovely feature of showing you bus stops or transport stops near where you are. Which I think is a great feature, especially if you wanted to see when the next bus is coming, or how long you got before the next bus to come along. Because if you're just doing a transit thing, you've got to swipe through all the possible route combinations to work that out. Whereas I think that's one feature and it wouldn't be too difficult to add that into Maps. It may be another thing they'll look at adding in. I think the problem is, as with all these things, I don't know how much resource Microsoft are putting into these apps, and whether they've got enough development team to actually do all these new features. I know the Maps team. I met the Maps team when I was out there last year for the MVP Summit, and they're really keen to get it working, do new features, and have good new features on it. But these things take time to do right. Whereas obviously the Here Maps and Here Drive were very established apps even before they came onto the Windows platform, and they had a lot of stability to them already. Whereas at the moment, one of the problems, and this is the general issue with mobile totally, is that the map app is fairly unstable at times. I've had it crash on me a few times, which you don't want when you're driving. So which is why I tend to use third-party tools, and there's enough of them out there. There's Navme, there's Sajic, there's loads of different things.
I've got Copilot.
I mean, Copilot's obviously a pay-for app. There's a lot of free possibilities. So I mean, you've got things. I don't want to just quote the Windows 10 mobile, the Windows Central article. I suggest people go over and have a look at that. But there's all sorts of apps out there. There's Map Factor, the one which I hadn't heard of before. It has been around a long time, and having looked at it now, it is one called GPS Voice Navigation, which uses Google Maps. and it looks pretty fully featured actually. Really, quite an impressive set of information on that. There's a free version and a paid version. $6.99 for that, but that looked quite good. But there's a lot of relatively cheap mapping apps. Now, the thing I would say is you always get what you pay for in this world. And we weren't paying for here maps, so perhaps if we had been paying for it, it'd still be here.
Yes, that's probably right. Yeah.
So I think that's it's always going to be an issue with something being given to us for free that is going to always be taken away for free as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I think but I'm less worried about this than I would be, other than the Here Transit side of things. I think the Here Transit is a major issue. I am worried for some of the markets that Microsoft have made deep penetration into. Some of the Spanish and Italian markets where Here Drive was way better than the Maps app is currently. I mean, this is always going to be the issue we've got, is that one of the beauties of all the Nokia apps is it was, for us, was that they were based out of Finland. They had a very European-centric, an international approach. They did the American app, they did the American versions, but they also did all the European versions properly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas we know that American developers tend to have a very American-centric approach.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and you do get that. There's a definite different emphasis there.
There is, and I fear a little bit for that. I mean, if you look at the comments today, a lot of people out in the States are saying, "Yeah, well, Here Drive wasn't all that good for us, but the Maps app is brilliant." And whereas you've got the people in Europe and certainly African nations saying, "Well, yeah, it's not so good for us." So I think there's something that needs to be addressed.
And considering that the market share for Windows Phone and Windows 10 Mobile is bigger everywhere else than the US. Which Microsoft may say, well, that's why they're focusing on their efforts on making it good, but you've got to keep in touch with your loyal customers as well, keep them with the features.
Of course, one huge advantage that the Maps app has got over the Here app is that it's a full-blown Windows 10 UWP app, so it runs in convergence. It runs.
Yeah, up on the big screen. You run it with Continuum. Yeah,
Continuum. That's a convergence, then, didn't I? Yeah. It runs a Continuum. It's got that full screen ability. I mean, also the Cigic app is also, as I showed on my Twitter post today.
Yeah.
I know you laughed at where I was running Cigic on my big 50-inch screen, largest sat nav ever. But it's quite good because you can use the simulate route to actually play your route before you go somewhere. So if you don't know where you're going, rather than having to look at your sat nav as you go, you can sort of pre-play it and work it out, and you also can pre-plan your routes. And I think that's a really good use of a universal app where you can sort of pre-plan your routes on big screen and then run it smaller screen to do the navigation.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think really what Microsoft need to do is to make sure that the Windows 10 app picks up some of those features that users want, and they continue to develop it. They've got to, all their apps, the Movies and TV, Groove, Maps, all the built-in Windows 10 apps, Windows 10 mobile apps especially, need to be excellent and the best on that platform. So, and then they make them the best that they can be, and then doesn't really matter as much about the third-party apps.
Yeah, exactly. And they're trying, I think. I mean, it's just really a matter of money and resource. And you can see with something like the Windows 10 mobile platform, why would you spend so much resource on it? But then again, the Maps is actually a Windows 10 app.
Yes.
And that may mean it can get proper resource thrown at it to make it work. I hope so. I mean, I had to. Paul Farrell put a post up about putting the Groove team onto it because they didn't seem to be doing much else, which I thought was very unfair because we know from writing the book that how many changes the Groove team made in the small time we were writing that book.
Yeah. I mean, the app has really changed since we started. Just under a year ago. It's vastly changed. Yeah, but when it's incremental changes, you don't really notice it too much.
No. So, and they're obviously addressing the fact that they need a UWP app because the original app wasn't. So these things do take time, and we do want quality control, as we discussed last week. So, and particularly with a mapping app, I mean, you talk about life and death changes, but they could be. I mean, if you consider a 10-minute lag on on a mapping app. You could drive off a cliff on that.
Yeah.
And people would, because they follow had their mapping apps to the letter.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they follow them all sorts of ways, don't they?
Yeah. So yeah, I think there's definite potential issues there.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And of course, it's another thing for the naysayers to be able to jump on and say, "Oh, we told you so," and all that kind of thing. Which it's negativity that it's bound to attract. When someone like here announces that.
Yeah, and also for Joe Public. Always have to wait for a launch day. I do think Microsoft could do away with some of its launch secrecy. I know they want to have things available to talk about the launch, but sometimes it's better not to.
Yeah, just keep a bit of good news out there and a bit of momentum, then, and do it that way. Yeah, in fact, we'll talk about Build as well and what you think we might see, because Build's coming up fairly soon, isn't it?
Yeah, next couple of weeks.
Yeah. Interesting story though, sort of talking about apps that have been withdrawn. Did you see the story that blew up over the weekend that turned out to be a total non-story about Spotify and Windows Phone?
Oh yes, the story which really wasn't a story at all.
Yeah, and
we had a few of those lately.
Yeah, and that once again shows how people love to jump on negativity of stories like that without any facts or anything. So what did happen?
Well, somebody in Spotify's technical support forum, we're not even sure it was a Spotify employee, said that they will not be updating the Windows 8.1 app going forward. And didn't confirm or deny whether the Windows 10 app. Well, that was obviously a full story because there was an update for Spotify this week. And Spotify themselves have come out and said, it's not going to happen. We are going to support Windows.
So do you think, are they said anything about doing a Windows 10 app?
Not directly. There has been rumours. I think one of their employees has said that they are looking at it quite strongly. And I'd be surprised if they weren't. I'd love to see a Windows 10 Spotify app, a full-blown desktop version. That'd be brilliant. Yeah,
because they do have a desktop player, don't they? But it's a Win32 app.
Yeah, but a proper Win 10 universal platform app would be brilliant, and I think would be a big seller for Windows 10.
Yeah, because supporting Continuum and everything else. Yeah,
exactly. So I think it was a non-story, but it was blown out of all proportion very, very quickly.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah, and that was the another nail in the coffin and all that. It came out very quickly, wasn't it? And I think people, perhaps a negative story creates more clicks than a positive story.
Yes, yeah. We live in a world of clickbait, and negative stories make for good clickbait.
Yeah.
You'll never believe what Spotify have done.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that was a non-story, but we did have some proper stories, Windows 10 mobile based anyway, because we had a new build last week.
We did, yes, and it's very good.
Yeah, so we got build 14283 for the fast ring, and as we mentioned last week, that there was a build last week for the slow ring that wasn't available for the fast ring, and I think we explained this probably quite well last week, but for anybody that didn't catch it, so there was the build last week for the slow ring that wasn't available for the fast ring was basically the Threshold 2 build.
Yes.
So it was for all the devices that aren't able to run the Redstone build of Windows 10 Mobile. So basically that's all Windows Phone 8.1 devices. Yes. The only ones that are on Redstone are the 550, 950 XL, 950, and a few of the new ones like the Alcatel One Touch.
Yes. Which looks a lovely device.
Yeah. Oh, and the 650 as well. Yeah. 650. So if you have one of those older devices, if you're on the fast ring, you wouldn't get an update because it wasn't released the fast ring. So you put it to slow ring, you got that build, job done. And it was just minor fixes, and we did talk about that last week. But the one for the fast ring was for the Windows 10 devices that we talked about. So have you had a chance to try that?
I haven't tried the fast ring one because basically I didn't have a preloaded Windows 10 device until this weekend.
We'll talk about, yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But I did try the one for the Windows 8.1 devices. I had that on my 75, and that was definitely a vast improvement. I guess have you tried the fast ring?
Yes, I've tried the fast ring and the slow ring. So on my 640, yeah, it is 640. No, it's not. It's a 635, isn't it? I forgot now. Yes, I did. I put it on the slow ring one, and that got the update. On my XL, 950 XL, I did put the fast ring on there. So the changes for this one, well, from what Microsoft said, there's now a little notification area in the top in the phone app that shows you. You had the pivot across the top. I'll show it on this video if you're on the video. The pivot across the top, which allows you to look at your history, your favorites, your dial pad, and voicemail, now has a little number by it to show you how many missed calls you've got or how many voicemails you've got, which is a small thing, but yeah, it's nice to see. So that's quite good. They mentioned that the mail and calendar app have been updated as well, but actually that was separate to this build, wasn't it? You could get that on the older one where you had moved to junk. Funny, my XL didn't pick up that update for some reason. So those are only the real changes. I did notice they fixed a lot of bugs, and I probably didn't see that many of the bugs anyway because I was on the fast ring already. It seems pretty stable on this one. I have noticed though that if you go, this won't show it now because I've just been using the phone, but if you go onto a notification, from Action Center, say an email, and you tap on it, and then it would normally prompt you for your passcode, or it'll do the iris recognition, the facial recognition. It comes up with the password screen, but it's blank. So you can't actually type your numbers in. But of course, you can do the facial recognition, and that works. Or you can back out of it and go back to it again. But that seems to be a new bug they've introduced. But this build did fix a number of issues with the device hanging and then rebooting, which I think seems better.
How's the new Bluetooth stack? Because that's one of the big changes, isn't it?
Yeah. I haven't. Well, one of the changes, like I said, they've introduced a new Bluetooth stack that supports 1.5 now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, what I haven't done is unpaired it or deleted the pairing and then repaired it again, which they said you would have to do if you want to take advantage of that, and I haven't done that. So I haven't seen any changes in the Bluetooth side of things yet.
Did it break your band?
It did break my band, yeah. So that's one of the issues with this build, is that if you've got a band 1 or 2, it will no longer sync due to a system API failure, which is pretty fundamental. So you didn't get any notifications or any syncing or anything, and it comes up with an error. But interesting how what the workaround was, which was to temporarily change the language of your phone.
Yes.
So I changed my language to US English, and it works fine. I've not had any issues at all. At one stage, it stopped working, so I changed it to UK English, and it stopped working, and it didn't work. So I changed it back. I removed the US English, added the US English back on, and everything's fine again. So I'm currently in US English on my phone, but it's working fine. So I'm not quite sure how that, surely if I was on, I thought just by going back to UK English and having the US English as the additional language would be fine. But anyway, it wasn't. I had to do it that way around. So hopefully they'll have a fix for that in the next build, and I can switch back to having UK English and have my dates in the correct format. We can have the month after the day.
yeah. They're to try. It's just a plan to Americanize us all.
Yeah. So apart from that, I didn't really see too many issues. I think one of the issues was it wouldn't work with web security on Wi-Fi, But
but anybody's using WEP these days. Well, I know you have to use it for some old Wi-Fi devices, but yeah.
yeah, and so I've not tried that. I must try that new Bluetooth profile actually, and I'll delete it and
Yeah, so
redo
that's the AVRCP one, isn't it?
Yeah,
So that should make it. It won't have anything to do with hands-free, but it should make playing audio a bit more stable for some people.
yeah. And to be honest, I've had no issues at all with playing audio.
Yeah, because that's mainly the control protocols. I think that allows a bit more fluidity on the trick place type stuff. So that'd be interesting to see.
Yeah. So I'll give that a try, but I haven't seen anything in that. They also said they changed the way that the live tiles update as well, the logic behind it.
Which is supposed to help the battery life, isn't it?
Yes, and in battery life, I can't say I've seen any much different really. I mean, this is running at 41% now, and it's probably had an hour of charge this afternoon.
I do love the USB-C charging. That's nice and fast.
Yeah, and to be honest, I use wireless charging all the time now. On my bedside cabinet, I've got a wireless charger. In the car is wireless charging. So I never even plug it in, and I think that's the one thing I'd really miss if I went to another device without wireless charging. I'd really miss that because
I do. I definitely miss cheap charging.
And it's funny. Before I had it, I think I said this when I got it, didn't I? It was, I didn't really see what the fuss was about, but it makes such a difference. You just slot it in on the desk, and there it goes. So far so good for this. I've not had any issues apart from the band issues, which is good because I'm glad I got my band working again now. I think it's not brilliant on it's not 100% on the stability of the notifications. I think there is an improvement over previous releases. Do you remember? I think I talked a couple of weeks ago and I actually did a post on it where I would just stop getting notifications altogether, and then you reboot the phone and everything's fine again.
Yeah. And
I haven't had that since this build. So, which has got the notifications bug in it, but it seems to be better. But having said that, it'll probably stop doing it, and I'll have to reboot it. It's a bit like Jason every time when he said he was working fine, and then it blue screens. But so far I found this build better. Although there is a number of issues with it, so I suspect they'll have the new build out with that. I think one of the other issues with the Gadget app wasn't it not working with the display dock.
Yes, so that's fine as long as you've already updated the firmware and the display dock. But if you haven't, you can't. So, which is a bit of a pain, but there we go. Yeah.
So overall, I found it. It's been pretty good actually, and there's a video of that as well on our YouTube channel and on the site, so you can take a look at that build. And there is lots of interest. I see lots of people looking at these videos of particularly the mobile builds as well. So there's a lot of people looking at those. So despite the naysayers, there are still maybe a small group of enthusiasts, but still they're there.
Yes, I think so.
We didn't get a PC build last week, did we? Don't think we did. No, we didn't.
No, we didn't get a PC build last week.
So
no.
We've got to be getting one this week.
Well, one would think so.
Yeah, we've not got one today. So as we record on Tuesday evening, so I'm pretty sure we'll get one tomorrow or Thursday. And there's lots of rumours as well that this one will have the extension support in it.
Yes. And some talk about the mobile version having that as well, so that'd be cool. Now, also, huge rumours this week that we might actually get the release of Windows Mobile to 8.1 devices.
Yes, I think you're right. I think there's been a lot of talk about that. So that probably news is, you never know, it might be broken by the time the show goes out on Thursday. So what do you think? This will be a small set of devices, or would you think we'll get all devices?
I don't know. They did talk about it being a small set.
They did, didn't they, originally?
Yeah.
I think, I mean, if I was Microsoft, I would just release it to the ones that have been available for insiders, because obviously they've all been tested. Unless they found any real negative feedback, maybe the 512 devices, the 512 meg devices. But although I'm saying that my 635 has got 512 and it works fine, so maybe they'll go for the 6, or maybe they'll just go for the 930, the 1520, 640s, 8, whatever they are. I mean, there's so many of them. That's a problem. There's so many Windows 10 phones. That Lumias, so many Lumias that Microsoft released last year.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's very difficult. I mean, I noticed they'd added some extra phones to the Insider build. The last couple of builds, we got the Blue Win HD, which I know a lot of my American friends were really pleased about.
mm. So maybe they'll be the devices we see, but I'm pretty sure. I think 930, 1520, 640. I think are going to be the definites, aren't they? I think 640 is a definite in the 930. So whether it's this week or whether we'll get an announcement this week, I don't know. What do you think? We'll get an announcement this week of when it'll be, or do you think it could actually all come down the pipe this week?
I think I think it'll start rolling as soon as they make the announcement.
Yeah,
this time. I honestly think that. I think that.
Yeah, they'll just switch it on. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how people how they deliver this. I mean, with PCs, we've had the sort of the controversy of the GWX program trying to to coax you into installing Windows 10 on your Windows 8 machine or your Windows 7 machine. With a phone, is it just going to come up saying there's an update to restart now, or are they going to allow you to not receive the update? Because if you're on an insider program, you don't get a choice, do you? Once you've selected the fast ring and you go to check for updates, it starts, and there's no sort of bailing out of it at that point.
Yes, true, very true. And I think also, I mean, there's a whole. They've got to get the marketing right as well. Haven't they? They've got to get the message. We were talking earlier about the messages they've got to get across. We definitely need to see some positivity, some positive spin on some of this stuff. Like they need to get this here message across.
Yeah,
very much as the update goes out. So it needs a big push. It needs a lot of good news and it needs a lot of new stuff. Hopefully, there'll be a few surprises in the announcement about apps. But I don't think there'll be any surprises about the OS. But I think we might get some new apps.
Yes, possibly. Well, you think that they would time some Windows 10 Universal apps in with the announcement?
Yes. Yeah. That's what I'm kind of feeling. I have no proof of that, but that's what I'm kind of feeling. We'll find out by the time this show airs we'll probably all know, because if that's the predicted date is our release date of this show. So everybody downloading the show expecting us to talk about it, and we won't. No thing.
Yeah. So we'll give you if you are downloading this, or if you are listening to this on your nicely updated phone, we'll be talking about it next week. I've got interested to see what happens with that. I've got my 1520 already back on Windows Phone 8.1, so I can do the full upgrade experience. Talking about upgrades, I think this was on Thursday morning last week, an update for my band by the Microsoft Health app, which adds auto pausing to the band too. And I thought, what's auto pausing?
Yes, I did think. I looked at what on earth is auto pausing.
So this is for bike rides. So if you stop, it will pause tracking your ride, and then when you carry on again, it will resume, which seems to make sense. A nice little update. And something that I didn't put in the post, but actually read afterwards, it supports TrueType fonts now.
Yes, which I actually is interesting, because it means you can certainly some other languages are able to get some interesting stuff out there. And although it did also mean that I did see someone post a post with a certain Comic Sans face on it.
Oh yes, that's it. Yeah. I wonder if that's one thing they could add, is you can change the font on here. That's what I mean. They have done a good job. They keep adding new features to the band.
Yeah.
Two, they do seem to have forgotten the band one now, which it's an 18-month-old device now, and I saw when they added the music controls to the band 2, I saw lots of people with the band 1 getting a bit upset, but that's the way things are. But it'd be nice if they could add some more UI customization. I think the UI stuff's quite nice, but I still like it if they could, if the clock, the time, when they're in clock mode, would actually go top to bottom instead of left to right, because you tend to have your wrist.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It would be nice if it could either detected it with the accelerometer or gave you the option of switching it round. So I hope they'll
issues, some coding issues on a sort of a pro bono approach a couple of weeks ago, and didn't expect anything for it. I didn't think I'd actually helped them out that much, although I did get them past a particular problem. And they turned up on my doorstep at the weekend, clutching a package which turned out to be a Lumia 950, and said, "Here you are. Thank you very much for the work." So yeah, I'm really pleased. I've got a nice 950 to play with.
So what's your sort of first impressions of it then?
Well, I mean, I've seen the 950 and 950 XL before, and as I said before, I prefer the performance of the 950 XL because of things. But I have to say, with the latest ROMs, this is actually becoming pretty performant. It's pretty. I certainly notice how much faster it is than 735 was, and I'd forgotten just how much I missed the glance screen.
Yes, it is good. Yeah,
yeah, and the glance screen is so. I know that's saving more battery than anything else because I don't turn the phone on to do this all the time. And that's one thing I have noticed: the battery life on this is way better than the 75 was, even without all the tweaks which are supposed to be coming on. So I like that. Hello, I'm struggling to get to work with my glasses. So
right.
I
got that to work okay eventually. Well, just by trading with them with it on and off, it seemed to be fine. Oh, have we lost Gary? Yes, we have. His PC probably crashed. Yes, I think he's. The way we'll get him back shortly. I should play some music while it's while we're waiting. Turn my drum machine on. So he's just sent me a message. His PC crashed and he's coming back. I should put my drum machine on something. Have a bit of drums. While Gary reboots. Here's some music. Ah, he's back.
I'm back.
I was playing some drums while.
wait, waiting.
Here's some music.
Yeah, here's some music.
Yeah.
So we were just talking about hello when
Yes.
when the PC went goodbye.
Yes, it did. Yeah. So how do you use it? Hello, I found it working okay when my glasses are off. Oh, it's not crashed again, has it?
No, I'm still here.
Right, good. I thought I lost you then. Yeah. So how you find it? So have you managed to get it retrained so that you can do both?
No, it doesn't seem to. Every time I try and retrain it with glasses on, it just says it doesn't recognise my eyes.
Right.
So I haven't quite that working. I mean, it works brilliantly without the glasses on. So I just lift the glasses up and it works. But I don't know if it's because I've got bifocals or something like that, and it's struggling to see.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But,
it seems to make no difference to mine, but these lenses have got a really pretty mild. You know, they're not very strong, so
yeah,
that's why.
Yeah, so I don't know, maybe, but it's at least it works when I haven't got that on, and it's quite good. That I mean, obviously that would be a problem if I was using the build you've got where you need to.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Things. So yeah, so that seems to be the only thing I really criticised on, I mean, I love having a physical camera button again. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So I've got a really good case for it, because one thing I've noticed in my travels, I'm finding more and more PMA based wireless chargers rather than Qi chargers.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I found a third party case, back plate for it, which actually does Qi charging, but it also does PMA as well.
Right.
So it's from a company called Mozo.
Oh yeah, no, I think that's the. In fact, I've got one of theirs to review, but I did a 550 case roundup, including the Mozo ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So they've done cases which basically replace your back case on your phone. Look quite nice. And they actually have both sets of charging built in, which is rather good.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's pretty good. I think, like you said, the camera button is nice to have on there. I think there is an issue I found occasion where it doesn't do anything unless you unlock the phone, which is not supposed to be the case.
Yeah,
I think that's a Windows 10 bug.
Yeah, so that seems to have gone away in this latest ROM for me.
Right.
The latest non fast track ROM.
Yeah.
Because I've got the 950 on slow at the moment, just so I can see. Well, in fact, I got it on pre-release.
Yeah, I think that's what I should be on, but I can't help myself.
So that's working quite well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this 958 XL. It's a really nice phone, and it's light, and it's a lovely form factor. It's just, I know it's not the premium feel that some of the other devices may have had, but it is. I think I quite like it. I think it's a nice little phone. Like you said, you've got Qi charging, and you've got fast charging. The fast charging works pretty well as well, doesn't it? If your phone's running flat, you can very quickly charge it with that USB-C charger. It's very impressive.
Good. So I mean, I do like the USB-C. I mean, it did catch me out a bit because I hadn't thought about the fact, because I haven't got Qi charging in my car. So I suddenly realised, how am I going to charge this in my car? Because I've got all my cars fairly well cabled in, so I've got sort of USB ports popping out all over places to stick certain things in, and that's one of them. So I ended up getting a little tiny adapter off Amazon for about £2, which allows me to go between the USB-C and the
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
And that works really well. So that's in the car, and I've got a spare one of them somewhere, which I seem to have lost at the moment, but which I can use in the house. But they came in pack of twos, a very few number of pounds. So I thought that was a good way of doing it.
Yeah, and I did get off eBay a USB-C to USB, just cable, which is fine, but I think I've talked about this on the show in the past. The transfer feeds for taking video off the transfer feed taking video off the 950 XL with the built with the Microsoft cable, as opposed to a standard, this one I bought, this cheap one, was probably about 4 or 5 times slower with the cheap cable than the proper Microsoft USB 3 one. So just because it's got USB-C port or cable that supports USB-C, it doesn't mean it supports USB 3. So it's a bit complicated. You think a USB-C cable must be USB 3, but that is not the case. You can have USB 2 over a USB-C port.
Yes. Yes. It's all very confusing. It's USB-C B stuff. We can have a whole article, a whole show on that.
Yeah. Like you said earlier on, you do get what you pay for, and same with cables. So we've got a couple of things to finish off. We like to talk about Emby on this show a lot, which is one of our favorite media player systems, media server systems, and they released a new version of their server this week, or at the end of last week, Emby server 3.05882, which has a few nice little things in, like remembering your audio and subtitle settings when you watch a video, which I think is pretty nice. So you don't have to then. So if you watch a particular video with subtitles and different audio channels, it remembers that next time you play it, which is good. But what they did was really interesting. Was launch Emby Theatre for the Xbox.
Yes, I saw that, and that actually tempted me towards an Xbox One.
Now, you think, okay, that's great. They've got an app like Plex have, but they've not quite. They've not. Obviously, the Xbox One hasn't been opened up to developers yet, for independent developers. So Plex is the exception, really. anybody can't just put an app on through the store, as we've discussed many times. So they've done this through their new MB Theatre browser-based app, which we talked about last week.
Yes.
There's a native one and there's a HTML5 one, and this is using the HTML5 one. And I'm just going to say it looks pretty good. You just go to tv.mb.media from the Edge browser in window on your Xbox One, sign in to your MB account, and it synchronizes with your so it knows where your servers are, and you can start playing your media. And there's music playback, video playback, TV playback. There's the EPG supported in there. There's all sorts of things in there, and it's a pretty good experience considering it is browser only, and it shows you how far the MB browser app has come.
Yeah, well, we've said this before. HTML5 is very powerful, so it's not surprising that they can do some of these things. But yeah, so good stuff. So that sort of kind of tempted me towards the Xbox One, and of course there's strong rumours that the other thing which may tempt me to the Xbox One is getting closer, which is the DVR functionality.
Yes, apparently we've seen a few people talking about saying that Microsoft been testing that recently, and that's going to be a matter of time now, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, I guess so. And I suspect we'll be one of the early ones to get it again, because we seem to be the test bed for TV stuff in the UK.
And all the rumours point to, and this is something I think we said earlier on, is that you're probably going to need an external hard drive for it.
Yes, yeah. So,
which will be a USB 3 one, I guess.
I guess so, yes, because it's USB 3 the device, isn't it? So
yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah, actually, funny to talk about this. Is people with Xbox Ones on? Jason was on now. He'd probably be laughing. I only just realised there's 2 USB ports on my Xbox One. Because I use the one at the back to it's got a cable in which I use to charge the controller, and when I was using the TV tuner, I had that plugged in there for a while, and I just sort of forgot about it. And then I was thinking, I wish there was another cable so I could charge 2 controllers at once. And my son went, "Dad, there's 2 ports." Oh, yes. So yes, he was right. There's one at the side, which I never spotted, but because my excuse is it slots into my cabinet, and I never get to see the sides of it. But anyway, he was like, "Oh, come on." So yeah, there are 2 ports. So you can, and so one of those will be used for a USB drive, and the other one for a TV tuner, and then you've got a DVR.
Yeah, sounds good. So if you do want to go rush out and buy yourself an Xbox One just in case this happens, there's some pretty sweet deals on in the UK at the moment.
Is there?
So we've got certain of the Xbox One bundles are currently £70 off. So, for example, if you the Xbox One Name Your Game bundle, which you can pick one game out of, say, Forza Motorsport or Gears of War or Rare Replay or Rise of the Tomb Raider, is now just £249.99.
Oh, that's a good price.
Yeah, so pretty good. And I've seen on Amazon there's a couple of the bundles. The FIFA one is down to about £229. Which is pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's getting into the territory I might be tempted.
Well, I must say I don't have anything. I mean, I've got the Skybox, which is connected directly to the TV, and although I could go through the Xbox, I don't bother with that. I do have a TV tuner plugged into the back of it, which I use for Freeview occasionally, but most of the time for the TV I use Sky anyway. But I use it for Netflix. In fact, it's a very good Netflix player, and that's the main use it gets, actually, apart from the games. It uses Netflix. I do use the Blu-ray player every now and again if I've got a disc, but I do use it a lot for Plex as well. So if something is, if I want to watch a movie or a DVD, I generally put it on Plex first, or rip it to my Plex server, because I've got the auto rip on. So it goes to Plex and my MB, so both running on the same box, and then I can use whichever client I want. So as there's a native Plex app, before the MB Theatre app came out, I've been using that. So Netflix stuff, Netflix, or use the Plex app, and it's a very good media player, and I haven't used my the DVD player or anything else for connected to my TV for ages now. I just
Well, I very rarely watch TV, live TV these days anyway. But I still use that VBox. I got it on review, and that's actually turned out to works really well with Kodi. So there's a plugin for Kodi which allows you to link it to the VApp box, and that actually allows you to sort of bring the guide data across and everything, and it works very solidly distributing around the house. So yeah, I'm quite impressed with that. Especially even to the Raspberry Pi, it works very well. So yeah, so that's proved quite a useful addition to my set of stuff I do here.
Yeah.
So yeah, all round good stuff. Actually, while we're on the Raspberry Pi, I was asked a question the other day, and I might have a new feature on the show. Ask Gary about home automation.
Yeah.
So I had an email through. I can't quite pronounce the guy's name. It's Jozan. So if someone wants to know, tell me how that's pronounced. It's Jozan, something like that. But he said I'm following your example. I've got Domotics set up on my Raspberry Pi, and I want to integrate into it a wireless doorbell. I'm struggling to find in the UK a doorbell which works with the RFXcom device. Any suggestions? Well, funny enough, this is actually something I've been looking at for the magazine. And there's there aren't actually that many which will work, and there are some caveats even on the one which I have found will work. Basically, none of the Bliss ones or the Byron ones, which are really common ones, available in the UK will work, except for the Byron SX range. And there is actually a Byron SX setting in RFXcom. Unfortunately, the Byron SX ones are quite difficult to find. Fortunately, there are quite a few clones of the Byron SX around. And one I would recommend looking out for is one from a company called Unicom, which is available in Morrison's in the UK. Which allows, I think, up to 4 different chimes. It is about £8 in Morrison's at the moment, and that works on the same frequency as the RFXcom one.
Right.
So the SX Byron SX one. So you can actually load it into Domestics and actually treat the button as just a normal push button. And react to that. And you don't even have to have the chime attached. So I was playing around with it, and you can press the button, and the voice will come out on my voice system. I put on the Pi to say there's someone at the door, and it also flashes up the camera I've got at the door on the screen as well. So there's lots of things you can do with it once you've got it. Obviously, once you've got it into any form of automation script, you can actually handle that. So I think any device, any software which supports the RFXcom will support that. One caveat I would say though is that the Byron SX protocol clashes with the protocol which is used by some of the power meters, the OWL range of power meters in the UK. So if you're doing energy monitoring, you may find that you can't receive the energy monitoring while at the same time as having your doorbell working, which is a bit of a shame.
That sounds interesting. I'll have to see a write-up for that.
Yeah, so a lot of this stuff is actually going to be in the next issue of Fascinating Tech. I'm doing, well, maybe the issue after this. Next issue, I'm talking about the automatic curtains, which we mentioned a few shows back on the one I did with Jace, which have been really good. So I've had a lot of interest in that. It's probably the most interest I've ever had from something I've mentioned on the show. Even had Josh Pollard ask me questions about that. So that's quite good. So that's going to be in the next issue of Fascinating Tech. But then probably the following one, I've got a load more follow-up articles about individual things like automating the doorbell. What I want to try and do eventually is have a fully automated wireless camera doorbell, a bit like the Ring, but done for a lot cheaper. So I'm hoping to see that. And what I want to do is actually have it battery powered as well, which is the real challenge.
Yeah. So where do we go to find that?
FascinatingTech.com. And a new issue should be out start of April, maybe second week in April, depending on how some content comes across. What we do with Fascinating Tech is we never stick to the deadline because we always want to make sure we've got the best content for you. So whenever the content drives it, well, that's when it will be out.
And just found one thing I posted today was my longish term review of the Dell XPS 15.
Yes, very good review.
Which is a really nice device, and I've been doing a lot of all the podcast stuff on it, the video editing, and some music production as well. So I've sort of shown how you can use that on there. So in my new room without the TV, it feels much more spacious and more creative now.
Yes, definitely does. So I mean, that looks a really good. It's a really good review. I've had a look at it, and impressive device, I thought.
Yeah, it certainly is. Yeah, I mean, the speed of it is. I think the SSD and everything else, all add to get the RAM and the i7 and everything else. It really does, and the screen is lovely, really nice.
That actually reminds me. A couple of people asked me which model of the Acer Predator I was running for my review I mentioned last week. It was the Predator G6. It's unfortunately the one they've sent out of review isn't exactly the same as the one that's going to be available in the UK model. It's only a difference in the RAM, but I actually thought that was a really nice bit of kit.
Yeah. Oh, excellent stuff. So we should be back next week. I think probably Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, depending on how we work it out. But you can follow us on Twitter, and we'll let you know what we're doing. We're available on our YouTube channel, IS Dixon on Twitter, and on thedigital-lifestyle.com. So we'll go and find out how Jason's doing with his Linux training. And until next week, we'll see you then.
Yeah, take care.